Good day, my friends. It's Billy Mandarino, and you are on the Now-ist Experience podcast. Today is a bright and sunshiny day because I get to connect with one of my nearest and dearest new friends, Stephanie James. And she has such a beautiful story. She's written a book. She has a movie out that's coming out soon, I guess, on a bigger, broader scale. I was lucky to get, I think I got like a sneak peek of it, Stephanie. Didn't I get kind of a sneak peek of it before it hit the big wide world? And I want Stephanie just to fill you in on what she's about and her mission and her teaching. She's an incredible psychotherapist, psychologist, psychotherapist. Is that the correct combination of words? She's also just this gorgeous being inside and out. And she's this light. She's about igniting that spark in you where I connect with her on the present moment. That spark is that initial fire that creates so much energy and connection and abundance and sharing and light for the world. So she is that light. And today, strap in, you get to experience Stephanie James. And Stephanie James, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Billy, for having me. I mean, talk about a spark. Yes. I mean, when we first connected, it was like instant soul brother, soul sister.
Boom.
Yeah. Yeah. So love your frequency, love your show, love your energy. And I'm just honored to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. But tell everybody about you and about your mission and your heart and your service and the light that you are in the world, because it's a very unique, special, bright light.
Oh, thank you. God, I just feel that it's been such an interesting journey, right? And the thing that I think is so important when we're in positions like you and I are, Billy, where we're sharing and ministering and coaching lots of people, we also have had our own trials and our own challenges. And so, my life has been no different. And it's from those things that I went through as a teenager with my parents divorcing and those things that really created that spark within me. I mean, I already had that as my essence, but there was like that inner drive to return to that little girl that loved all of life, that truly was in love with everyone and everything and was in touch with that light within her. And so, yes, I feel like, I've been now, I hate to even admit this, 33 years in the mental health and personal development field. And it was really the last 15 years that I became very, very clear that my mission was to bring as much love and healing to the world as possible through as many different ways or platforms as I could. And so it's been a miracle. And we can talk more about this later, but it's come through in my book, The Spark, Igniting Your Best Life. That was my first book. And my new book, Becoming Fierce, Creating a Bold and Beautiful Life, which is coming out through Grace Point Publications in June. Wow. And yes, yeah, I'm really excited. And we're doing this really cool women's event, all women, 6 presenters that are just out of this world. Natalie Ledwell, Pauline Wynn, Sadina Caponelli, Misa Hopkins, Cynthia James, and myself, just 26 women. And it will all be filmed for a new series that's going to be coming out called Lights of the Round Table, which you experienced in my first film.
Yes.
And this season, the first season will be called Becoming Fierce. And so many miracles. And the first film coming out, it'll be in May or early June on Plex Network on the More You channel, is Igniting Your Best Life.
Now that's the movie that
I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, Igniting Your Best Life. Right. When Sparks Ignite, which will ignite your best life.
The movie that I just saw, Stephanie, was Igniting Your Best Life, correct?
No, it was When Sparks Ignite.
Oh, When Sparks, that's the one. I got the sneak preview.
Yes.
And so how can people get it? I'm getting ahead of myself, but how can people see it? How can they find you? I always like to do this at the end, but people are engaging now and I'm feeling inspired because I want people to act, and I want people to click on your site, your YouTube, your Instagram, your Facebook, and to find this movie, because I watched this movie and I was just chills. I was connecting with the light, the energy, where all these collective beings, I love it, the lights of the round table. And that's exactly what it felt. I mean, Larry Dossey, how did you get Larry Dossey, who is one of my favorite authors? He wrote a book called The One Mind, which just changed my life. And I have my event coming up in May, and I teach about his book, The One Mind, and how we are all this collective energy, and we're all this one mind. And he was a twin. He married a twin, just phenomenal. And so he's in your movie. How'd you get him in your movie?
Yes. Well, talk about, I mean, this is serendipity, right? And we talk about this, and it's like literally when we become as clear of channels as possible. And that's one of my personal goals. And that's what I try to help people with, is that's when we create that space for the divine to come through. Right. And so when we're surrendering, or if we notice that we've got like a limiting belief, or we have something that's unhealed from the past, when we notice that little cobweb, in our conduit, it's like, how do I clear that out as quickly as possible so I can be this clear conduit? And so it was interesting, Billy, because it was literally when I had just got done with a meditation that I got the very clear download that from my radio show and podcast, The Spark, I had these guests that had been, I'd had Larry on the show. And I thought, well, I have, I know some of the most serving hearts and brilliant minds on the planet. What would happen if I brought them together? And instead of just doing an event where the speakers come and then they leave the stage after 40 minutes and nobody talks to each other, that they actually would come a couple days early and we'd have our own event. And so we, meditated together and danced together and made music, and I interviewed people individually. And then, yes, we did what we called the lights of the round table. The 12 of us got together around this round table. And we were talking about like the most important things in life. And this was all filmed, October of 2019, before the pandemic.
Oh my God.
But it's so appropriate. The things we were talking about, cultivating grit and resiliency, and how do you overcome challenges? What is love? How do we thrive, in these times? And so, and it was a miracle. And so I have to tell you the whole Larry Dossey thing. So Jacob Lieberman, who has been one of my dear friends and mentors, I said to him, hey, I'm going to be going to Santa Fe. And he knew about this vision. And I had shared this vision with him, and we were totally in cahoots. And Lights of the Round Table, that was his idea. Like he had seen that, that vision had come to him. And he goes, well, I'm friends with Larry and Barbie Dossey. They live in Santa Fe. And I was going down there to see my girlfriend, Misa Hopkins, and her husband, Jeff. And he said, why don't you just email them, see what they say? And they were so lovely. I mean, right away, they're like, let's go out to dinner. Let's meet.
What?
And yes.
He's
and
a legend.
So,
He's a legend.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I was just, and I'll never forget walking into La Fonda Hotel where we met at the restaurant there. And he's very tall, and this man, this beautiful presence is standing there, and he turns around and he goes, Stephanie James. We've got that little bit of an
cool accent, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, Larry Dossey, he just embraced me. And he was so wonderful. And it was in that dinner at one point, he reached across the table as I'm explaining to him this mission, and really my vision for that film was, taking these challenges and these, hardships that we face. And it's like having that realization that those things can become the match point that ignites something within us that then become our gifts to the world. And so that how each person's healing matters and contributes to the whole. And Larry reaches across the table and just, puts his hand on mine, and he's like, Stephanie, how could I refuse? And it was like,
he could have refused. Yeah, exactly.
He could have, but it was amazing. So both he and Barbie, came and presented, and
she was lovely too in your movie. She was really, you could feel it. They are just two lights, right? They're just brighter together.
Gosh. Yes, absolutely. And all of her work as a nurse, her holistic nursing. I mean, she is just so passionate about what she does. And so she and Larry together, what a beautiful contribution. And it was that trip also that, good old Jacob Lieberman, he connected me with George and Sedina Capanelli. And they are the people that they do the Ageless Living series on PBS.
Yes.
And have become since then two of my dearest friends. I was just at their house for dinner. I was back in Santa Fe last weekend,
My God.
Saturday night. And, we're just marveling at what's happened in the last 2.5 years.
Isn't it funny how time is this great illusion, Stephanie, where right? And I'm all about living in the present moment, living as a Now-ist, teaching people how to live in the present moment and out of time and stress. And you think of this spark and this intuition, this inspiration that you downloaded, this service to the world, came right before arguably the lowest time in humanity, right? This global pandemic with so much strife and so much stress and overwhelm. And time is this great illusion because it came exactly when it was supposed to, and it's coming out exactly when it's supposed to. It was shot when it was supposed, right? And because you could have really got through all this, the travel and the, right, it really wouldn't have come together with the pandemic. So it was so meant to be. And when people can learn from you and learn from experiences like this and apply them to their own life, and then they watch your movie, it comes full circle for them. So how do they get there to the movie? How do they find the movie?
Yes.
When can they get it?
Yeah. So, literally this all just has been coming to fruition. And I met with Jonathan Barbado yesterday, and we are having it on Plex Network on the More You channel. And I don't have a definite date yet for you. What we talked about is it will be May or the beginning of June. Perfect. But keep looking, at that network, because More You right now, the channel More You, it's free. All this is free. Wow. And More You has just beautiful offerings, like we were talking about, from Natalie Ledwell, Jack Canfield, Lisa Nichols, Michael Bernard Beckwith. I mean, it's just, it's really an incredible.
So has it been out for a while, or is it an emerging channel?
It's been out for a while, and it is also, it's growing. And it's powerful, and Plex in and of itself has 30 million unique viewers a month.
Wow. Okay.
So
I'm not familiar with this. So I am going there as soon as we are finishing our interview. I'm going there and I'm checking it out, because you spoke about everybody you just mentioned. I love those folks and I follow them and I learn from them, and I tie ropes around them and try to carry on their light and their mission through my work, and do just being of service to people and teaching people how to get out of this world that's full of stress and overwhelm and anxiety. And I love like-hearted people like you and myself and all those people we mentioned, and all the 12 nights in your roundtable. We're all coming from that same place of how can we serve, not really what's in it for us. And when you live that way, you find that all this abundance, like you said, these synchronicities, these serendipities, your timing is good. You just allow, and you're not surprised when they show up. These spiritual breadcrumbs I learned from Dr. Wayne Dyer, right? These spiritual breadcrumbs, you follow them, and life is so much easier. And I think in this world, coming out of this emergence trauma that we're coming out of, right? We're coming out, I like to call it emergence trauma, because there's still a trauma, we're emerging from it, but there's still this trauma that people have not dealt with. And as a psychotherapist, how do you counsel people? We're not going to, you're getting a free lesson, a free session real quick with Stephanie James. There's no PayPal link. She's just going to give it up.
Yes. Well, and truthfully, and this is something which is so perfect to what your message is, living in the now, because I find that is one of the things that helps my clients the most, is this practice of coming back to the present moment. Because where fear is created is when we think about, the unknown, and our mind can't wrap around what that looks like. And so if we're in that fear, we're in that fight or flight mode. And the thing that's interesting about our brains is that whatever we hold up, what we hold up in our mind, our brain experiences as happening now. So if we're living in the what if syndrome, and we're like, oh my gosh, things are going to be horrible forever, and we're catastrophizing, that's how, physiologically we start experiencing the now, but it's not happening now. And the same is true if we're ruminating about the past. So if we're also saying, oh my gosh, what we just went through was so hard and it was horrible, and we continue with that, well, we're still living there. And so there are some, and they're very simplistic practices, but they're very profound. And it's how we bring ourselves back to the present moment, because in this moment, even if it's challenging, we're so much more resourced when we're not kicking more adrenaline and cortisol through our through our system.
Yes.
So it could be as simple as 4 square breathing. And 4 square is, the inhalation for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4. And so when we stop changing our breathing, I think a lot of times people don't realize when we're anxious, we're breathing right here.
Yes.
And it's very shallow and very fast. And so that's signaling our brain like, I'm in danger. And by just shifting our breath patterns, we're telling our brain to chill. Everything's okay. I can relax. I can be the gazelle now that goes back to eating the grass,
Yes.
instead of running from the tiger. And so, I think this is really, that's one of the things. It's like mindset, body set, bringing ourselves right here and now. And from that place, we have so many more resources from which to handle what's right here, right now.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of your movie, I'm going to keep hammering the movie because I love
All
it so
right.
much, everybody. I love it. Go see it.
Oh, thank you.
Plex Network. And and it was also, it's called You More, or
More You is the channel.
More You is the channel, right?
More You, which is a higher consciousness channel.
Right. And that's the key. So no, I was thinking of that and thinking right now, of course, in this world, I hate to bring up the topic of the hour that's on everybody's mind, it seems, in the United States anyway, maybe the world, of the Academy Awards, thing with Will Smith and Chris Rock and all this. And I think about the world, and I think how everybody has glommed on to this negative energy stream. I don't know what it is, if it's the Joneses, if everybody wants to have the next information, if it's their ego that's just pulling this out. But it's kind of interesting for me to sit back as a spiritual teacher, and you as a spiritual teacher and a therapist, and you look back and you think of this collective consciousness of the world, how so many people are just glomming onto this negative bit of press where, God bless Will Smith. I mean, he was, and Denzel Washington, I don't know if you watched it, Stephanie, but Denzel Washington gave him a piece of advice, after he had slapped Chris Rock, and he says, the devil comes for you in your high moments. And I thought, I like to call the devil just negativity or negative energy. It's just that negative power that is over your thoughts and over your life and over your subconscious mind, if you allow this to happen. And here is a great example of Will Smith, and he's bawling his eyes out. He says, accepting the highest award of his life. And you can see he's going through an existential breakdown. He's going through something. And if you saw it as a therapist, you could probably read through all the lines and the tears and the words and the coding of his words. And us as the audience, we didn't see unless you go afterwards and find out actually what happened, because we were watching it live. My wife and I, our daughter, were watching it live, and you couldn't see what happened. You didn't understand kind of what he was talking about. You said, okay, this guy's crying because he's elated, and it's finally reached the top of the mountain. And you think about the world and how the world collectively kind of joined in this negative energy, or this, I guess it's kind of this false energy, the ego, right? This false self. And I found it was a weird experiment of this ubiquitous nature of everybody to kind of misery loves company almost, right? And everyone likes to be involved in that. I'm thinking, wow, how do we continue to transmute these lower levels of energies to higher levels of consciousness and awareness, send people like that love, but also learn from their experiences so you don't get caught up in the negativity, the devil, as Denzel Washington called it. Because so many of us, at our low spots in our life, right, the devil or negativity comes for us. At our high spots, because our guard is down, right? Because we feel like we have nowhere to go. So it's like you hear those old, that song about the devil went down to Georgia and he signed a contract, right? He signed a contract, signed his soul away. You think about that when you sell yourself out for this top of the mountain, and then when you're rock bottom, you sell yourself because you got nowhere to go. But I'm always teaching people and inspired to teach people that it's a journey without distance. It's a journey inward. It's inward and onward. And you have to go inward to find that truth. And so what is your take on it? That's just recently what's on my awareness, and what's been coming through is that traumatic, ubiquitous nature of this event that happened at the Academy Awards.
Yeah, and I didn't watch it. I watched the video, of course, several times afterwards. And one of the things that I feel is important too is, and you were talking about, like, we can send them love, we can send Will and Chris both love, and at the same time, stop feeding that machine with our attention. It's like energy goes, what do they say,
Energy
yeah.
flows where your focus goes, right?
So wherever we're focusing, where our attention is focusing, energy is going to flow there. So we can actually, contribute to not allowing that to grow by
Yes.
saying, yep, I'm aware that that happened. It doesn't align with my system. We can check out, our inner self. And again, I love Mother Teresa said, we all have a Mother Teresa and a Hitler inside of us. So this is not about judgment whatsoever. We could all be capable of being Will Smith, or we could be capable of being Jada, or we could be capable of being Chris. We can put ourselves behind authorized. And, again, I would invite people to really come back within themselves and say, I want to raise my vibration by what I'm choosing to focus on. Because I think when stuff like that gets very sensationalized, we start feeling like I can't get away from it.
Yes.
We can, because we have the power to push off.
Most powerful button on the TV.
It is. And on our electronic devices and, whatever else. And so I think, and we know our thoughts are powerful. We know our attention. They can measure them now. They can measure that when this frequency goes out, this is the energy that's discharged from that. Yes. And so what do we want to focus on instead? And that's what I would invite people to do. Just start lifting their frequency. And that's what, and we don't have awesome news stations that are like, hey, but I want to tell you the miracles that happened today. Like, this is incredible.
Right.
And we
this
need
is it.
that.
This is what we have to give people. People have to tune into more shows like this to get that news.
Exactly. And I think and Billy, I think it's so powerful because we do have way more power than we are aware of. And so for me, it was like, yeah, I heard it. I watched it a couple of times because I didn't know if is that really realistic? Again, I know this whole thing is like, was it faked? Was it not faked? And then in the end, I had to come to the thing, you know what? It's not that it doesn't matter. It does matter. And what can I focus on? It's kind of like, again, I'm referring here to Mother Teresa. I guess she's in my consciousness this morning. But
it's a good one to have.
It is. She's good. But she, talking about, she said, I will never attend an anti-war rally. I will go to a peace rally.
Yes.
And so for me, it's the same thing. I'm not going to condone violence, and I'm not going to give my attention to violence. It doesn't mean I don't care about it, but what I'm going to focus on is, what is something positive? What's a positive content item or subject that I can focus on that will make a difference instead? So if I want to focus on, I want to look up, stuff that's going to be like around, empowerment. So what instead, does that make sense, Billy?
Absolutely makes sense, because what's coming through from me, Stephanie, is the powerful teaching that I teach at the Now-ist Experience Live. Quick plug, coming up May 13th and 14th on one-on-one coaching, Ho'oponopono. I know you're familiar with that ancient Hawaiian teaching. And I think of the cleaning, because that's what that means in Hawaiian. Ho'oponopono means to clean or clear your energy. And I've studied that, I've learned it, I've applied it in my own life. I've helped other people with that those simple 4 prayers. And I think of that as a collective energy right now. We're all so focused. I don't watch a lot of news or TV for that matter at all. But when I do flip it on, or if something does run across my feed, you see everybody just kind of jumping on this negative bandwagon. But if we could clear, people could individually, like you talked about what Mother Teresa is talking about, the war on drug creates more drug use. The war on homelessness creates more homelessness. The war on hunger creates more hunger, because wherever you put your energy, that's expanding. But if you can clear your energy and you can put the power of your intention out there and focus on cleaning those negative connections that we have, because we're focusing, oh my gosh, Chris Rock, oh, Will Smith, he should be banned, he should take his off. You have the power, your thoughts, it was more powerful than you know. So I think about this collective cleaning that could be going on in this world individually, and then we can all learn from these problems. I know you've had challenges in your life, I've had challenges, and how I've got through them is to get to that realization that I am more powerful than I know. My thoughts are things, my powerful present moment awareness with the gift of my wonderful human imagination, I can change my future, I can change my present, I can change my past even. But it's getting clear and clean on that slate, so nothing can stick to it, because that's what I love about the Ho'oponopono. So people that have come up to me from it, I've just said, you try these 4 prayers, please forgive me. I am sorry. Thank you. I love you. And put them on Chris Rock, put them on Will Smith, put them on yourself, put them out to the world, and just see how you feel. Oh my God, it works every time. I can't, with connected with your breath, like the box breathing you were talking about. You connect that with your imagination, with your intention, with the whole Ponopono prayers. Nothing can attach to you but joy and grace and connection to healing power and love.
Yeah, you know, and when you're saying that, what's pinging for me is this whole thing about, I think sometimes those kind of situations are mirrors for us. You know, we see that acted out. And so it's actually an opportunity for us to look at, where does that resonate in me? What part of me, you know, is angry, or what part of me becomes that, you know? And so it is, when you said clearing, I'm like, absolutely, because we have the power to do that then. And that, I have to tell you, you know, that's been one of the really exciting things for me lately is I have been training in this technique called the flash technique. And it is one of those things that helps clear out, whether it's trauma, limiting beliefs, whatever that is. And it's very, for your listening audience, they may or may not know EMDR, which is a trauma protocol, which rewires your brain. This flash technique does it. I say it's EMDR on steroids.
So it's like tapping, or
you're doing bilateral stimulation, but you're literally doing it on yourself. When I do EMDR, people have headphones on and sensors. So they're getting this, but it literally, instead of going down deep into the trauma, it just has touch points. And I'm having people have results in like 20, 30 minutes instead of 10, 12 sessions.
Are these your clients that you're taking through?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the flash, is it simple or kind of complex?
It's actually pretty simple. And I won't go into the technique too much, because I think you have to work with a trained therapist to do it. But what's interesting, Billy, is the flash, the part of the flash comes from eye movements. So where EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing, the flash is from the research that was around when they had people that were arachnophobic. And they would take a group of people and put them in a room where they were looking at the screen, and on the screen were like these wonderful images, and people were, you know, experiencing feelings of love or joy, and unbeknownst to them, flashing on the screen subliminally were all these pictures of spiders. And so these people would leave the theater, or they'd leave that area, and they were no longer afraid of spiders. So there's something beautiful in this process that you touch, like I was saying, being aware of, like, what did that incident light up in me? And you do this quick thing where you're tracing it back to your earliest memory of that physiological experience, maybe a belief that you had. And then through this flash technique, you come on back to the present moment, and then you're doing that bilateral stimulation. But what you're talking about is something wonderful, like one of your favorite moments. And then as you're speaking about that favorite moment, every so often the therapist will tell you to flash. And that actually doesn't mean pulling up your shirt. What it means is that you do this. For people that are listening, you blink your eyes really quickly 3 to 5 times. And that's doing that cognitive reprocessing. It's literally carving new neural pathways that disconnect from the trauma and reconnect to the feeling good.
That is amazing. So is it a subconscious programming? Is that why it's the flash? Are you trying to interrupt the subliminal patterns through your subconscious?
And so there's an old saying that neurons that fire together wire together.
Hebb's law.
Yes. So that when we have these old traumas and beliefs that go with them, every time we think about the trauma, we have that physiological response, right? Those things are hardwired together.
Yes.
So we break that connection by then focusing on all this really pleasant material. We've already, we say activated that in your brain. And then through the flash, what you're doing is now you're rewiring to the positive experience. And so, I mean, I've had people that have had miracles. I mean, people that had, panic attacks, anxiety attacks for 2 years, leaving the session and saying, here we are a month later,
Oh
and
my
they're
gosh. So
like,
it lasts. So it's
yeah,
sustained. So
yeah, oh
they can
yeah.
sustain it. So then they go follow-up treatments, or is that the process? Or
Yeah, I mean, you can do, because most of us have more than one, incident in our
yeah,
lives that have
right.
created some belief system. So you can do as many as necessary. And what I'm finding is I'm working myself out of a therapy job
No.
right now, which is fine because all this other stuff is manifesting through, right?
Man, amen. That's crazy. So is it a newer technique?
It is, and it's
It's
like an offshoot of EMDR.
Oh, so they're using, I know, for like post-traumatic stress for Vietnam and Afghanistan veterans, right? I know they had a lot of, because these incidents of seeing their friends and their buddies, their soldier getting killed, right? They've seen, so they have those traumas. So I'm sure this probably would work for that type of post-traumatic stress, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's
So,
specific to an incident, like you're afraid of spiders, you're arachnophobic. Like, so it's specific to whatever your fear is. Like I was claustrophobic before I went into that MRI tube last year. Right.
yes.
And mine was trial by fire, but luckily it was through the Now-ist meditation, through breathing, through chanting, through singing, through what I call going quantum, getting out of physical time. I was
Yes.
able to live in a COVID cocoon, an MRI tube for 4.5 hours. And I feel like I don't want to test myself again, but I feel like that claustrophobia is almost waned to nothing.
Well, yeah, yes. And, really quickly too, I want to give your audience something they can use right now, today. Because there's this awesome book by, I believe her name is Laurel Parnell.
Mhm.
And the book is Tapping In. And it's when you see, instead of like, when you were in the tube, when you were having that experience, it's like you could think of like a sunset, or you could think of something beautiful. And she would say, you just do this. This is bilateral stimulation, means it activates both hemispheres of your brain and you tap it in. And you can start doing it in the now. Like if you actually walk outside and you see the beautiful sky, you hear birds, you see that beautiful sunset. If you just do this,
You're like
6 to 8 times,
anchoring that in.
yes, you are telling your brain that has this natural negativity bias. So it usually, we say, negative experiences are Velcro in the brain, and it like grabs on. It's like, I need to remember this so I survive.
Right.
And positive experiences being like fried eggs on a Teflon pan and they slide right off.
Yeah.
Instead, we're saying, hey, brain, listen up. We're giving what I call it stickability. So we say, okay, this matters. Like right now, I'm connecting with you. It feels incredible.
I'm right there with you, baby. I'm right there with you.
Right. So we're like tapping in that experience.
Amen.
And it helps to hardwire it. So that's something that the audience can start doing right now. It's like,
so is this the specific motion? It's almost like hugging yourself, right? It's like
hugging yourself, and she calls it butterfly tapping. So it's like your little wings are just like,
I love monarch butterflies, so that's an easy image for me.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that even just feels good, right?
I know.
It's just a rhythm, like, and beyond the hug of yourself, but there's a rhythm there and a tempo, I guess. And speaking of that, does it matter the pace of it, or the tempo, or the timing of it?
No, you just don't want to keep doing it too long. Okay.
Yeah. 6 times, right? Or just like 6 to 10 times.
You'll just feel it kind of naturally, and it's like, it feels good.
So it's getting yourself in state and almost like anchoring that state, right? To the present moment, to your physiology, like Hebb's law, the neurons that fire together are wiring together, correct? So you're wiring new neural pathways. Is that true?
That's exactly right.
Wow. Is that fantastic? I mean, you think of EMT, you think of, or the tapping, right?
Yes.
So I guess it's maybe an extension or a next level of that almost, I would say, right?
Yes.
That is so fascinating. I love, life is so simple if you can get out of the thinking monkey mind, right? If you can break it down to simple, tangible, and I know your movie was, to me, it was so right to the heart. There was I didn't feel like there was fluff, or let's get these 12 people, and yourself included. You're one of the lights, of course. You're one of the 12 at the round table. But there was such it just cuts right to the heart. There was like a laser. I just felt into the movie instantly. And the most beautiful part of it for me was you took an individual from the beginning of your movie. She's a past therapy
client.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. A therapy client or a psychotherapy client. But she goes through this journey, and it's just amazing through the movie to watch this woman who had these traumatic things in her life, and how it all just ties together. That's why I felt like there's such value in it, and it was beyond. It wasn't like another movie I'd seen or another. I couldn't compare it to anything. And you had me at Larry Dossey anyway, so.
But and I think that is the power of that, though, and and the movie speaks to this. One of Jacob Lieberman's sayings is, "We're all the same height," and I think that's such an essential message. And that was the importance of having, Debbie in the film, which is my client, my ex-client, because it doesn't matter how many books you've written. It doesn't matter, your movie career or whatever else. We all are having this human experience. We're all the same height. And so we all have anxiety and fear and sadness and joy and, and expansion. And so it's like, how do we befriend those emotions? How do we tap into them and transcend our limitations, transcend those times that could really drag us down? And instead we learn that, we can actually ignite the sparks within one another. And I think that's one of the key things of the film is, as we do our own healing, that's what we're able to do. I mean, and that's why I really charge to people, like, your healing is so essential to healing our world, to healing humanity.
Amen. Like, I love Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. And I say, from my life, my experience, my dharma, my inspiration, my intent power, the power of my intention for this embodiment, Billy Mandarino on this planet, I feel like it's this mission to teach people how to live in the present moment more consistently. But when you do that, all you want to do when you find your peace is give it away. Because I've said it many times, it's my favorite quote, and it speaks of the light and the spark that you are all about. And it comes from Hafiz. Just look at the sun, right? The sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Just imagine what a love like that does. It lights the whole sky. And I think about that as we are individual lights, and we are igniting our individual light. We just want to shine it on other people. We want to give it away, because when you have, for me, I don't know about you, most people, when you have a lot of anything, you just want to share it. So I want people like Mother Teresa and all these great teachers, Jesus, these incredible teachers of the world, just wanted to teach you how to be the light for the world and how to give it away. And that's how we change the world, is you be that change. And so I feel like that's my mission. I've signed up for, and I know it's similar to your mission.
Yeah.
Light workers, if you will, light workers, they want to have more people join the party. And then this whole globe could be part of the party. And it's not that far of a stretch. I know we've got some tough things going on right now with the war in Ukraine, and we just came out of a 2-year pandemic. But I feel similar to that monarch butterfly. I call it my COVID cocoon, what I went through. The monarch butterfly goes through this death and then it has this rebirth. I feel like we're going through the birthing pangs of this new earth, as so many great teachers in past millennia have spoke of. What's your take on that? Do you feel like we're going through this transition as it's a global, I don't know, almost a universal transition through these tough times lately?
Absolutely. My sense was when the pandemic hit, what I was really aware of is, wow, to me, it was that this is the universe calling us all literally inside to do our inner work. I mean,
Yeah.
we had to come inside.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like, my dad would have referred to it as the age of awareness.
Yes.
That, and that we truly are coming into that. And so, we can tap into the fear, or we can tap into the excitement that truly, and it's not that we say, oh, none of this is going on. I think we really have to have open eyes and open hearts to what's happening in the world. And at the same time, I can become a part of the collective in the most positive way that I've been able to, if I'm willing to continue to do my own work. And it's not about arriving at a I have clients all the time are like, when do we arrive? Like, when do we have it all figured out? And I'm like, there's no arrival. Yeah, it's right now and it's right here. And so I think when I think about what's happening on the planet too, even though we see wars and we see, some really difficult things, we're also seeing this huge rise in consciousness.
Yes.
And truly this beautiful interconnection of light workers and people that are really committed, like yourself, like me, to raising the vibration and consciousness of the planet, to helping people in whatever ways that we can. And so I think that that really is a reality for us that we're going to see manifesting. And as you know from the film, and I don't want to give anything away, but it's less people than we think of that are the tipping point that change consciousness.
It's pi, isn't it? Phase transition is 3.146, whatever that the number of pi is, right? I remember when I did last year, we did the first Now-ist experience live. I did the math and I realized in Santa Barbara, there's 100,000 people in Santa Barbara. And I started and this year I'm going to do the same thing. My intention for this event for everyone, I wanted you all to know out front that our intention is to help people in this city of 100,000 people to live at higher levels of consciousness. And if we can reach phase transition, which is pi of that population, which was the amount of people we had in the audience at the time. And it's been proved because Ramana Maharshi proved it. And I think it was in Iowa. He had the Ramana Maharshi Institute. Remember they had all those professional yogis and meditators, they prayed and the crime rate in this area dropped like 20%. I think it was in New York or some.
Yeah, 38%.
Yes, there it is. So
38%.
I said, I parroted that study and said, okay, we are going to do the work for 2 days. We are going to create such a shift in this room, the number of people that are here, the people living at lower levels of energy in this Santa Barbara area, 100,000 people, we are going to upregulate. And that's the work. That's the change that we are all going to be for the city. So we have 200 people coming to my event in May 13th to 14th of this year. Same thing. That's going to be the same intention, is to take this group of energy, this coherent energy field, this vortex of love, if you will, and we are going to change the world through this 2-day experience. And I know you're in step with that, but it's just that phase transition, that pi, the 100th monkey effect. Yep. It is a real, tangible, quantifiable, measurable change that we can create. And we don't need to take calipers and like electrodes to go out and measure it. You just know, because we are all one.
Yes. Yes. And as you say that, what lights up in me is the movie, The Moses Code.
Oh, I love that movie. Great Braden.
Love that movie. Yeah. And so many, I mean, so many amazing people in that film, Michael Bernard Beckwith being one of those. And is it Donald Neil Walsh?
Yes.
He says in that film, and this is something that's always stayed with me, and this is something that your listeners can do again, right here, right now. I love that because the premise of that film, it's a great documentary if anyone hasn't seen it. It spoke to how what was missing from I am that I am from the Bible was a comma. And so it really should be I am that, comma, I am. And what Donald Neil Walsh shared is how he goes into the community, and it doesn't matter if it's a millionaire or if it's, you know, someone that's homeless on the street. Each person he encounters, one of his exercises was to say, I am that. I am. And I feel like that is so powerful. That is one of the things we can do right now, because, you know, we live in a cancel culture. We live in, you know, there's so much divisiveness going on. And so if we come back to Larry Dossey and the one mind, and that, you know, and that we all are one.
Yes.
I think that is the essential piece. And even again, circling back to earlier in our conversation, we all have Mother Teresa, we all have Hitler inside of us. So instead of judging, as we love ourselves and love others and see the other in us, then that also is going to be the healing of the world. That immediately raises our frequency.
Oh my gosh, you're so speaking my language, soul sister. And when I'm in airports, when I just stand there, intentionally stand there at a busy airport, and I just watch everybody go by, and I say, there's God as a 12-year-old little girl. There's God as a flight attendant. There's God as a captain. There's God as a mother working with her screaming 2 little kids. I just see God in everybody. And I feel that oneness, that I amness that the Moses Code speaks of, I am that I am, in everyone. And I just see there's an expression of the I am, and I'm in there and they're in me. There, as Rumi says, you are the drop in the ocean and you are the ocean in the drop. It's that oneness that we are all connected to, and we come from and return to it. That's where you start to change the world, in my feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and I have to share with you the story that's coming through as you're talking about this, as we were speaking about this, and it's from Larry Dossey, actually, when I interviewed him about his book, The One Mind. And he shared this story of being in Vietnam. And he was a battalion surgeon in Vietnam. And you'll see it's all research. I mean, you can look up research that talks about something that happens in the mind when we deal with traumatic moments. Well, so here he is in Vietnam, and he had promised his mom that he wouldn't leave, the surgeon's tent, and he would keep himself from harm. Well, then a helicopter crashed in the trees, maybe 100 yards away. It was upside down. There's fuel pouring through the cockpit. And Larry said, without a thought, he ran straight into harm's way, and cut the pilot out and got him out of the helicopter, and was haunted by that for a couple years. Like, why did I do that? I ran right towards a situation where I could have been killed. We could have all, exploded. And then he found the research that said there's a mechanism within us that in those moments where, and you've heard of this, where a mom lifts the car off of, her kid, or there's a great one about this gentleman who covered up someone else that had fallen and gotten stuck in the subway tracks.
Right. Yes.
Covered him, right? Larry talks about that.
Yes.
Covers him with his own body and saves this man's life instantaneously. Because in those moments, what happens in our mind is that the person that we are rushing to save is us.
Oh, I love that.
There is no distinction. And so I'm getting the chills too, because it's like this sense of that's the oneness. And so it's like in our mind, there's this higher self that is aware of that oneness, even when our limited, primal brains are not aware of that. In those moments, it's there.
That is beautiful. That's profound. And that's something everybody can take away from this podcast today, is the oneness, and that you are more powerful than you know. You have so much more inside you, and the unknown, I believe, is where the growth is. So the deep work, I guess, is to go in that unknown within us, right? And not be afraid of these crazy things that you're talking about, these mystical things that are so, because I guess we crave certainty, don't we? As a human species, we crave certainty because the autonomic nervous system, the fight or flight, is always trying to protect us, to help us survive. So I guess and I also learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza about, when I was reading his book, was Becoming Supernatural, about how, we focus our attention out of the autonomic nervous system on, what's in front of us, because we always think about the worst case scenario, because we can survive it. If we know what the worst thing is, and we go to the worst, we go to the absolute outcome that's the worst, and that creates a lot of cortisol and stress and fear. But we become a reflex action to that, right? In our life, it's a bad email, it's a bad conversation, it's a breakup, it's a financial, and that's the word. It happens all day. So we're never coming off of that crazy cortisol flood. Correct? Is that correct in my analysis of that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's, I used the example earlier of the gazelle.
Yeah.
And we're not meant, a gazelle, when they're being chased by a lion, they have all the adrenaline go through them. And then you'll notice once, they're out of danger, they totally relax. They go back to eating. But when we're having what you're talking about, how we have, maladapted in so many ways, is it's constantly the lion chasing us.
Yes.
And we never stop. So we're dumping, all that adrenaline and cortisol into our system consistently throughout the day. We're wearing out our adrenals. It's
Yes.
The impact to us is so huge. So we have to go beyond our primitive wiring. We have to go beyond that sense of us that does catastrophize. You're exactly right. Immediately, worst case scenario, if I can live through, if I can imagine it, and so the truth is, when we reel ourselves back in to the present moment, what we're able to do then is, through breathing, it might be mindfulness or meditation, bringing ourselves to the present moment as fully as possibly. But it is as simple as our breath. It's as simple as feeling into your hands and feet right now. If you put your hands together, you can start feeling that energy between the palms of your hands, through each finger and each fingertip. If we breathe into that, all of a sudden, there's no other thoughts. There's no place else we can go. And when we're right here in this moment, we actually we have the ability to deal with whatever's in front of us. And so we can tell the catastrophizing piece of us, thank you. I know you're trying to protect me, and I've got this. I'm going to have more resources. I'm going to be more able to deal with it when I am present and relaxed in this moment.
Well, I have good news for everybody that just watched this session. Stephanie is not going to be charging you her rate. This was all free. How lucky are you that you got to spend and I got to spend this incredible, enlightening hour with the beautiful, wonderful, mystical, magical light and spark that is the Stephanie James that I'm blessed to know. And now you know her too. So go find out more about her. Where can they find you, Stephanie?
So they can find me on my website is stephaniejames.world. And there's a trailer to the movie there. They can, my book is there. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Stephanie the Spark. And yeah, I'd love contact me. I would love for anyone in your audience, reach out. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Because I think that this is what we're doing. We're helping to spread the spark so that we can, ignite the whole world.
Well, I'm just so thankful for the divine spark that united us together in the same light, in this now moment, in this oneness that we've got to share this timeless experience that was in clock time and chronological time. It was an hour, but for me, it felt like an instant because there is this great speed of the universe of light is that I love to end with this quote that I love from Meister Eckhart. He says, time is what keeps the light from reaching us. There's no greater obstacle to God than time. Meister Eckhart. We get so caught up in the time, and I invite you, as Stephanie invites you, to live in this precious present moment. It's what's keeping you from your life, your best life, the magic that you want to experience. You are the greatest gift you've been waiting for. And don't get caught up in time. Know that, and it's the light that's instant, that spark in you that Stephanie so brilliantly teaches about in her movie. Please go to stephaniejames.world and check it out. And sister, you're a new friend, but I feel like you are a timeless friend that I never, ever left. So we're back in time. We're back in physical time. I'm just so thankful. Butterfly hearts, right? Butterflies across the heart. Oh my gosh, you are amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you enough. And I will hopefully talk to you very soon. And please go reach out, find Stephanie James on her social media, go watch her movie. Your life will be taken to a different level, I promise you. Thank you, everybody. Wishing you all the blessed.